Hi, everyone. Wonderful to be with you again. And I have a very special conversation for you today with a wonderful lady called Nancy Rebecca. And Nancy really began her major spiritual work when she had an out-of-body experience about 25 years ago, as I understand, that led her to setting up her website, Intuitive Mind, and I'll put her link and all of her details below to give you more of those. But it's what she is all about is helping people to develop their own psychic and intuitive ability. She's a registered nurse, and a registered nurse, I want to say, with a very big heart. And Nancy actually wrote to me a couple of months ago and talked about she can see a lot of blue light around me, and she wasn't the first person to say that. Other people have mentioned it, and this links very much to Sirius. Blue light is linked to Sirius energy, and so that interested me a great deal. And then just in the last sort of week or so, I corresponded again with Nancy, and we only spoke for the first time yesterday, in fact, and had a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I hope we can repeat some of that today, because it was thrilling, actually. It was really thrilling for me. But her website talks about this huge galactic event which is going to happen this month. And what interested me as well is several people online, in fact, an increasing number of people online in social media, are talking about this big galactic event, this big galactic surge of energy. But Nancy is being very specific about it. And that was another reason I wanted the conversation. So because my mantra is endlessly, I'm welcoming in an expanded consciousness of love, and really Nancy's work very much fits into that, I thought it would be great for Nancy to share her information too. And just before Nancy speaks, just to say, remember, astrologically, we are expecting these quantum leaps right now. The dwarf planets are representing a high level of high octave of consciousness, and we're discovering more and more about them. We have a very important Jupiter-Uranus conjunction coming up next April, which is very powerful, very much linked to galactic energy. Pluto's about to re-enter Aquarius in January, again, Aquarius linked to galactic energy. And this is a paradigm shattering time for humanity. We have Neptune in a long-term square to the galactic center, and that's going to be specifically highlighted at the end of this month, November, by the full moon in Gemini. So, so much astrological context for what Nancy's going to be saying. So, Nancy, I'm thrilled to welcome you.
Thank you so much. I've been, I so much gratitude just goes to you and all the ways that you're able to explain astrology on that kind of boots on the ground way, and that really kind of human way to help us digest. And that's how I found you, because I could really feel the influences of the energy, the frequencies of the energy, but I didn't always understand it. And so that's what I love about what you do is you take the information and say, this is how it applies to your life. And I work in very similar ways, as a registered nurse. It's like, okay, this is your health and what's going to help you to maintain that health. And so now here it is, so many years later, it really applies to everything that we're going through right now. But the galactic piece, that went through me for a loop, that went
Yeah,
through.
and so where would you like to start with this, Nancy? Would you start to talk about the visitation you had of the 12 tall blue beings? That was
Yeah.
fascinating.
Well, and just, a little bit of background, and those, my clients, my students, my friends will all tell you, and even high level spiritual teachers would say, why do you have such an aversion to talking about aliens and star beings and spaceships and other worldly universal dimensions? And they would ask me that all the time, and I said, that's just not my lane. I'm talking about the human energy field. And they're always telling me, don't get distracted, and I imagine all your listeners, it's like we can get distracted easily from the direction that we're going. So it was trying to keep that, in check. And then one day I was in my meditation room in my home, and I could hear, it kind of sounded like planes landing. And then all of a sudden, like when you're on a plane, if you've ever been where you're going up in elevation, your ears are popping. So that experience was happening. But then suddenly it felt like a breath of like mountain fresh air. So I had these kind of sensory experiences. It kind of made me sit up and it's like, oh, something's about to happen. Now I'm a clairvoyant, and I'm a clairvoyant of the type that I can see energy fields, I can see into the spiritual world at the same time I can see the physical world with my eyes open. So I walk around like this all the time, but I've learned how to, I've integrated it as normal for me. All right, so these blue, tall beings of light come into my room, and they're tall. I would say, they're definitely like 6'7". Some almost had to kind of duck to kind of fit into the room. They stood there. They're very benevolent beings. This level of love that goes, I call it beyond of our concepts of love. Very gentle, but very no nonsense, very straightforward. And so I greeted them, hello, and they didn't say hello back, but I could hear these sounds of like whales, dolphins. If I could imagine what a mermaid would sound like, that was it too. But the translation was, they said, there's going to be an enormous shift in consciousness. Everyone on the entire planet, billions of people, are going to be touched by this transformational blue light. And you can imagine that enormous, it's like, okay, all right. And they said, and we need you to go to China to get the information about this blue light. And I thought, okay, that's not a small ask. So first of all, I said to them, I said, I can feel in my bones what you're saying as a truth, but if you really want me to go to China, you're going to have to come up with the finances. I know nothing about China. I don't speak the language. I mean, I gave them the shopping list, and within a month, someone approached me who's Chinese from China. She said, I heard word of mouth that you had this visitation. I'm going to take you to China, and I'm going to travel with you and be the interpreter. And she would come to my house with maps and say, where are the blue light beings telling you you need to go? And we were there for almost a month. So let's see, this happened in April when they visited, and by September I was in China that year. Yeah.
And that was a very powerful experience for you. That was the real beginning of this episode, wasn't it?
It really validated what I was getting. I will tell you that she arranged for me to meet many Taoist masters. I will tell you that I had an experience in Xi'an, China, that was what I would call a very prophetic download. In that prophetic download, when the energy came as a blue lightning bolt, it'd be almost like my eyes fluttering, almost like I could pass out from the energy of it. I did go to the ground, and they showed me a vision that there would be a blue light surge for all of humanity here on the earth. November 19th, 2019, November 19th, it just so happened, 2021. And then they said it would be also in 2023 in November, but they would never, I wanted to assume it was the 19th, but they would not tell me for the longest time. I realize now they were telling me, but it wasn't one date, it's 3 dates.
And just before you get to that, Nancy, I just want to interject astrologically, the 19th of November, 2019, when that surge happened in China, Jupiter was exactly conjunct the galactic center. And then Mexico, which you've mentioned as well, and I know you're going to come on to talk about that in more detail, 19th of November 2021, there was a very powerful lunar eclipse in Taurus that day.
All right, so if you will humor me and explain to me what Jupiter and the galactic center, what that would mean in astrology terms.
Well, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so it's in its sign of rulership. And between 26 and 27 degrees of Sagittarius is where we have the galactic center, the galactic core, if you like. And Jupiter was exactly at that point on the 19th of November 2019. So it's expanding whatever is coming out of that galactic center. And the galactic center really releases for us powerful cosmic radiation with which we create our world. It's kind of spewing out plasma with which we create our world. So Jupiter is linked to higher consciousness, expansion, magnification. So that's a very powerful signature for a kind of upgrade, if you like, an upstep in the level of the plasma coming out of the galactic center, and also how humanity are going to use it to raise their consciousness.
Wow. See, this is what I love, because I remember trying to find some information astrologically about why is that date so significant, and I couldn't find anything, but I went with it. And that's really in alignment with what they were saying. So before I go on, their message has been consistent. Since 2017, this first happened. Their message has been consistent that what the blue light is going to do, of course, is awaken humanity to their own divinity. All right, that's the ultimate, their own divinity. They're not coming to save us. They are enhancing our light so we can save ourselves, so that we have the problem-solving knowledge capacity to make all the right decisions that we need. But they've always said, number one, what has been hidden will be revealed. So this blue surge that comes through, they're dissolving all illusions and enhancing truth, and justice will prevail. So this is very consistent. And what I say all the time, what has been hidden that's been revealed since 2017 has blown my mind. I had no idea. The illusions that we hold about ourselves, like the illusion that you don't have a purpose in life, or the illusion that you're not lovable, or the illusion of you have no value, all that's being stripped away so that you can feel the truth of your largest authenticity about yourself and who you are to be here on earth. So I hope that those listening in can really feel that the enormity of that. So I've been kind of living in that since 2017, from a very kind of clinical mental place. Like, what does that even mean? You just watch the news and you just watch illusions falling apart left, right, and center. And we are witnessing beauty in the world. It's hard to know right now, but we are beginning to witness that. So I had that vision, so 2019, but then you talked about 2021. So what was the astrology around that?
That was a lunar eclipse at 27 of Taurus. And it's interesting that, 27 of Taurus is actually quincunx. It's a 150-degree aspect again to the galactic center. And what we have currently this month, and actually in quite a long term through to the end of 2024, is Neptune squaring the galactic center and Vada, dwarf planet Vada, exactly conjuncting it. So that galactic center is very potent for whatever work you're doing with the Sirians, the blue light beings.
And so I've known nothing about that, but when I first experienced in 2019 and in 2021, and we're experiencing here in 2023, so I've already kind of shared the general message that does not change and will not change. They're consistent about that, no matter what else comes in and goes out. But those two other experiences I had, time stopped. It was as if the clock, the second hand, was tick, 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 and then it just stopped. That's what it felt like. It felt like the birds stopped singing, the cars stopped driving. It just, I didn't realize then that we were all in another dimension, but that it felt like the whole world stopped for a few moments. I can't even call them seconds because it's not measured in time, but it's like moments. And then all of a sudden it was like tick, tick, tick. So it starts again, but everything in you has just stopped. And so then once it starts up again, it's almost like you're different. You've just made a quantum shift. But because it doesn't, it feels so benign. The experience can feel so benign that people don't think anything's happened. And yet everything after that first event, big things happened, like COVID happened following that February, March, April. That exploded. When it happened the second time, we had another big surge of COVID. There were a whole lot of other things that were happening. Can you relate it to the blue light? They're not going to take credit for anything because what they're saying is we're the ones doing it. So what we're desiring to heal will get healed. What we're desiring to create will get created. And so now I've got the consciousness enough to be excited, really excited about this one, because I'm going in with my eyes more wide awake than I have before, and I'm accepting it a bit more.
Fabulous. So the second one was in Mexico at Tehuantepec, you mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. So they told me that they've already come to the pyramids in Cairo, Egypt. So they told me that they came through somewhere around the 1920s, 1940s area time frame. And it's almost like there's a sense of like they've been planning this for a long time. And in the sense that I have, I mean, they're laughing at me because I call it a sense, but it's like you've got two outcomes planned, outcome A and outcome B. And it's like they get everything set up in accordance with what direction we're going to go. And I'll just say they're very happy about the direction that we chose. And that's why this blue light's coming through to assist. But they came through the pyramids. I didn't know much about pyramids. Then they came through China, and then they said they were going to come through in Mexico. So by this time, I'm realizing that pyramids are amplifiers. And they're telling me it amplifies the light. So the light's going to come in, it's going to amplify into the earth to help the transformational changes that need to happen. They also shared with me, we have a lot more pyramids in the world than we realize. And they said what has been hidden will be revealed. And since 2017, more pyramids have been found. They're not like on the forefront of our news, but if you just do a slight bit of digging, you'll be able to find out. So the blue beings of light asked me to go to Mexico to the pyramids, Teotihuacan. I apologize that I can't pronounce it right. So I took off. It was in February, went to go make a visit. Incredible site just outside Mexico City. If anyone, and I understand that you went there, and I would like for you to explain what it looked like for you, but I want to finish this up so I don't forget. So I'm there and visiting. These are powerful ancient pyramids. And then they asked me to bring in the light, like a blue column of light down through the sun pyramid. And right away, probably about 100 feet above the top, it turns, it makes a bend, it turns, and it goes into the side of the pyramid. And I was startled. And they said, the capstone is missing. We need you to repair the energetic field. So even though the physical aspect of the pyramid was gone, we could repair that capstone. And I have to tell you, this other thing is so cool. Like one of our other friends on my way there, she goes, I have this book, I want to give it to you. And it's like the pyramid capstone missing, somebody stole something, like it's an adventure book. I couldn't believe it because I knew nothing about a missing capstone when I arrived. So I went to the museum. I couldn't find anybody to tell me what happened to the capstone. And then found a little book on the way out. And it was, I think it was destroyed in the 1920s by the church at the time. I think it was the Catholic Church. But anyway, when I came home, a group of us got together and we meditated really regularly. I call it my blue light group on Facebook. And we got that repaired just in the nick of time for November 19th, 2021, so that blue surge could come through to help all of humanity. Like, just doesn't get better than that.
Wow, it's just phenomenal. And you know, the number of synchronicities you had, Nancy, to guide you as breadcrumbs on the way as well. I mean, it's stunning sight. I actually went there. I took a year off between school and university, spent about 3 months traveling all over North America, including Mexico. And I remember like it was yesterday, I got a local bus with the local Mexican people and goats and ducks and went out and spent the day at Tehertecan. And you didn't buy tickets then. They were still hacking some of it out of the jungle. I mean, this is a long, long time ago, but I spent the whole day and I was absolutely transfixed. And I knew nothing about astrology at that point, but I knew it was an incredibly powerful building. I understood enough about the Egyptian pyramids that they built their passageways at 23.5 degrees from, that was the best angle from which to see the eclipses. I knew that they were a very astronomical culture. I believe that they had observatories on the top of their pyramids as well. They were very advanced astronomically and I believe astrologically. And so it was very profound. I spent hours and hours and hours just wandering around, and I knew the geometry was very important, but I didn't know how, and I didn't have the astrology at that point to really fully understand. So it's so interesting. This has come up as the second main location for the
Yes.
second surge.
Yes, yes, and that it was going to be very important. So I became curious. My nature is highly curious. I love to learn. I love knowledge. And I'm really practical. So when I had my out-of-body experience, I could see energy. It still didn't mean I knew what I was seeing or experiencing. So I had to ask a lot of questions. So this was one of the questions that I asked. It was like, why Xi'an, China? Why the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico? So they kind of guided me to do a little deep dive. And those two pyramids have Mercury underneath the pyramids, so they amplify even more. Now, in Xi'an, China, they have their pyramids, I'll say, under lock and key. They've got high fences, they have guards. They've actually, there was a photograph, anybody can, if you do a deep dive on what I call Dr. Google, you can find the pilot who took pictures, and they were white, pure white. So they have photographs of them, but then they put them under trees and dirt. For some reason, it's highly secretive. But the Mercury was significant. I just met an anthropologist in September. We just started talking about this. He got super excited, and he goes, I'm going. I got invited to go to the underground to see this Mercury, and that just doesn't happen. So that was significant. It was like, okay, we're trying to find logical reasons why a blue light would come to the Earth. At least I am. But yeah, it was significant. It's significant there. So then surge number 3. And that's what's happening here. Now we're in November, and I was told that surge number 3 would come through the southwest of the United States, through the pyramids there. That's exactly how it came through. And in my human mind of intelligence that thinks it knows more than these high-level star beings said, we don't have pyramids in the United States. And their answer was, what has been hidden will be revealed. And so I waited and I waited and I waited. And then one day my mother said, hey, I've got I didn't even say these pyramids are aligned with the Orion constellation. That's the other thing they have in common. She gets the book, The Orion Zone, and it talks about the three mesas in Arizona that are aligned with the Orion constellation.
Wow. So a couple of things to add to that, Nancy, because people may not know that the pyramids in Egypt, which, you know, a lot of work has been done on those, and there's a wonderful chap, I think he was originally an engineer, but he's done a lot of work with Graham Hancock, called Robert Bauval, Bauval, and he wrote a brilliant book, I think way back in 1994, called The Orion Mystery, and it was a huge success. But what he realized in working on the pyramids, it was only when he was flying above the pyramids in a plane that he could see that the lineup of the pyramids, and one being smaller and slightly offset, was a perfect mirror image for the Orion constellation, of which Sirius is one of the stars, the brightest star in the sky. So that's when he made his real breakthrough, that whoever built the pyramids must have come from up there to have that, you know, that view of the replication of Orion's belt. And now that's happening in Arizona. And what's fascinating about Arizona is, if I look back to the solar eclipse that we've literally just had on the 14th of October, if you look at the eclipse path, it skims through the northern part of Arizona.
Wow.
And
wow.
if we're looking forward, well, if we look back to the total solar eclipse of 2017, that was going from, the eclipse path was going northwest to southeast across America. The annular solar eclipse we've just had on the 14th of October is following a similar path, just slightly more south.
I love it. I love it.
And the total solar eclipse is going to be super powerful in April the 8th next year, is going the other way. It's from the northeast to the southwest. So the crossing point is around Texas, but not that far away. You know, the orb of influence, if you like, of that eclipse path will certainly cover Arizona. But the one we've just had, the solar eclipse we've just had, April 14th, is skimming through the northern part for sure of Arizona. And I think that's where your three pyramids.
Yeah. Well, and when I got the book and then I was meditating and I tuned in, I'm like, are you trying to tell me these mesas are pyramids? And they said, that's exactly what we're trying to tell you. So they're flat topped mountains worn down by water and wind. But if I try to imagine, going back and imagine that they could have been these enormous pyramids that have been weathered through time, that's pretty incredible. So I just keep coming back to what has been hidden will be revealed. And there's been so much revealed that surpasses the limiting belief systems that I had, and some that I still have, that I just have to keep telling myself, just expand, because it's more comfortable than not expanding. Yeah. So and Orion, but there's been several types of star beings. When they first came in, there were 12 that would visit me, and I didn't see any others. But over the years, I've started seeing more star beings. In the beginning, they couldn't come down to Earth. Our density here in the 3D level is pretty heavy duty. And but the frequency, so everyone has already experienced an expansive uplifting frequency since 2017. So more have come through. But I have to say, maybe in the last 3 weeks to a month, I've been seeing them by the hundreds of thousands. And these beings they're just spreading throughout the world. They just look like blue lights everywhere. And it's almost like they're getting in position. I know this sounds crazy. It sounds so crazy. And then when you come on and say, well, this planet's doing this and that, and the galactic's opening up more, we're getting a lot of galactic infusions. Then it's like, all right, if Pam says it's all right, then I'm all right. And but I can feel, even in some of the war-torn areas, it just warms my heart. to know that there's a lot of support. There's a lot of support there.
And we so need this. We so need this right now. So, wow. So, Nancy, would you like to talk about this month and the 3 surges that are happening this month? Because I understand you've now got specific dates for those.
Yes, I have specific dates. So it is November 4th, which is just coming up this Saturday. I will say a couple of weeks ago, because I used my clairvoyance to really tune into the frequency, kind of get my finger on the pulse of what I sense is going on. It was very contracted. The earth it was a dark, dark blue, kind of like my dress, very contracted. It was shortly after that, then the war broke out in Israel and the Palestinian conflict. Now it's very expansive. Now it's lighter lapis, and it's expansive about 30 miles out. So even though it's horrible, that stress in the Middle East, it somehow got some energy moving so that we can problem solve and negotiate and mediate whatever needs to happen. All right, so November 4th is the first surge. It's going to come through the first mesa. And from what I understand, I haven't been there, and I was guided not to go there. And the reason why I was guided not to go there is because it's Hopi land. It's the ancient land of the Hopi people. And that they really contain a lot of knowledge, ancient knowledge of the times that we're living in. So I was just guided to look from a distance. And so they said that the blue light will come through the first mesa on November 4th. Then the second surge will come through. They're going to give us 2 weeks because this first one is supposed to be really potent. And then the second one will come through on the 18th. I've got my calendar here. You would think I would know this, the 18th. And then the third one will come through the third mesa on November 25th. And I have the blue light meditations that can really help facilitate these surges, because a lot of times people are like, what can I do to support myself? And grounding is going to be very helpful, opening your heart, staying hydrated, seeing if you can get some good sleep, although the ascension symptoms that are really impacting us is severe insomnia, or sleeping hours on end, and getting out in nature. I would say that's the biggest. And then I'd say the second biggest is try to come up with a creative project. So why do I say those things? Because the frequency with this blue light is so high that you can kind of lift off a little bit. And these help you to be grounded, but help your body to integrate the new frequencies into your DNA and into your genetics, because we're being activated to expand into higher states of that capacity to be the best humans on the face of the planet.
So this blue light, Nancy, is going to reactivate the strands of DNA essentially, and expand our consciousness as well. And
yes.
you said something really beautiful on your website. You said the blue light is knowledge of the highest form, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. You know, this is higher mind, higher intelligence, and that's again very linked to Pluto moving back into Aquarius.
Wow. Well, they gave me an example just this morning. They're always giving me examples to help me understand the human aspect. But they said, all right, so let's say that they say we're humans, we only use 10% of our brain. So let's just imagine 100% of our brain, and the light is on and only 10%. Now, I'll probably be wrong and not get this right. So it's just metaphorically speaking. They said as the blue light comes through that contain blue light codes, as that comes through, it's like more lights will come on in different rooms of your mind. to allow you to access that higher knowledge. So the other example, and they give extreme examples to help my human mind get it. They'll say, all right, 2 + 2 is 4. Your basic math, you can understand that, and you're good with that. You can buy your groceries and know how much money you have left over in the bank account. But they said, now, for an example, exaggerated, these lights come on, and now you're reading and it's like, oh, I can understand Einstein's, theory of relativity. It's just like, you could go from balancing your checkbook to all of a sudden wanting to read quantum physics books. So yeah, it's a little exaggerated, and for some people it could be that direct, but for most of humanity it can be quite gradual, over the next couple of years for sure. But most of the time we're not really going to know that something has happened, because it's going to feel so normal. Like, this is, of course we're supposed to awaken at this time. Kind of feels like that.
So it may not even be conscious. It will be a huge inner shift where we're able to embody more light and more knowledge and an upgrade in the DNA, but we may not be in our day-to-day life that conscious of it.
Correct. And when the first one happened, there was a group of maybe 20 of us together, meditating together, and it got quiet. It got really quiet. And I have to tell you, I was in South Africa on the oldest game reserve in Africa. And we were there intense camping. So I was there when the blue light happened. And you can imagine being on that land with elephants and lions and cheetahs and birds and everything going silent. So it seemed so anticlimactic. I'm like, well, that wasn't that big of a deal. Are you guys ready to go have breakfast now? And then it was like all hell broke loose. It was just crazy stuff. And oh my God, because it shatters those illusions, right? And oh my gosh. So I will never underestimate the power of gentle transformation again.
And I very much see this. One of the astrological signatures is Saturn moving through Pisces, because Saturn is 3D reality, density, etc., and Pisces dissolves that, and it's going to be moving through Pisces until February 2026. So over this period of time, I very much see as many people are going to be shifting away from that sense of strict 3D time, linear time, etc., to embody more of their light body, because this is what this is about essentially, isn't it, Nancy? Shifting to the light body,
your best self, your best self. And I said to someone yesterday, it might have even been you, it's not like we're going to become something else. We're becoming ourselves.
Yeah.
And we are not what our mother thought of us. We're not what our father thought of it. We're not what our husband or wife or children think of us, or what our boss thinks of us, or what we think of us. And those are the illusions that are being dissolved, and you will become more of yourself. And when you're more yourself, it's like you're just content in life. And who doesn't want to be content no matter what you're doing? And then they were showing me the cells and DNA, because I'll be asking questions while I'm washing dishes. I have to say, it isn't like I'm constantly in conversation with them. There are openings that make it easier. And then there are times like when 7 planets are in retrograde where it's not so easy. But I was asking about these light codes, and I want to talk about those for a minute. But I was talking about because I'm trying to understand this DNA genetic thing, and I'm very scientifically minded. Both my parents are doctors. So they said, it's like, you have star seed, like our ancestors, they're saying very clearly, you all came from the galaxy. You came from the stars. You are stardust. You drink water that has star qualities in it. So I'm going to talk about the light codes now because it'll make a little more sense. And, oh my God, I get so excited, Pam.
That's wonderful. I'm hanging on every word, Nancy. It's brilliant. I think this is going to help people such a lot. Brilliant.
I was standing, because it's fantastical, I know that, but I was standing in my front window and I was looking over the greenery and I was enjoying, looking outside. And suddenly I started seeing these like little sparkly lights coming down. So it would be like little icy snowflakes. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, but they were blue. So I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and then I went around my house. I live on the corner. I'm looking in the back alley. It's like I can see these blue sparkles everywhere. And then I started seeing them come through the house. So they were coming through everything and they were going right into the earth, just deep into the earth. So with my clairvoyance, so clairvoyance means clear seeing. I have the capacity to tune in and tune out. So I can tune out and see the earth from the galaxies. I can tune in and see what's going on in your liver. So I tuned in to see what the heck is that. And when I expanded these light sparkles, they contained what I can call light codes. So like zeros and ones. But there were hieroglyphics, there were runes, there were Sumerian, symbols. They looked like Chinese characters. Like it was a variety, but there was a lot there, Pam, of languages that I don't know. Maybe an anthropologist would know, but I didn't know. But it's coming from another dimension, like the Egyptians probably came from. Well, according to my friends, it's like, we all came from the stars. But these codes that come in, so then what happens, they said it's kind of like snowflakes that would melt, on your skin. You see it on your hand. And they're unique, like snowflakes. But what happens is they said, we've had dormant DNA, the frequency on the planet, we could not have handled that high level of knowledge. Some people would have had mental health imbalances. And we've had that where people can see things that other people can't see, and they were thought to be mentally ill. But what they're saying now, we are of the frequency that we can awaken to a new level of knowledge that will be available to billions of people on the planet. No one's being left behind.
Yeah. And
when I asked, what about murders, and what about violence, and what, I'm going to get down into the muck with this. And they said there's that spark of divine light that is in every cell of our body, every atom, even in murderers, even in horrible, I hate to say it, mass shootings and things, but it is so coated over with so much hatred, and that they no longer have access to their own divinity. So to bring it back up again, they said, as the blue light is coming in, it's dissolving what has been hidden within us, our own divinity, and it'll melt that away. And so I would like to think that means that maybe we won't have wars anymore. I mean, why not? I don't know if that's going to be true, but I'd like to think that it is.
Well, the more we raise our consciousness, the more we have a sense of interconnectedness with all living beings. It's something I've been talking about a lot recently. And when you have that sense of interconnectedness of all beings, birds, animals, trees, everything, it's unimaginable to hurt them because you're part of, everything is connected. So that should enable us to get beyond these, terrible, terrible, terrible wars. But so the process you're really describing, Nancy, that's so exciting is that we're in this constant feedback loop with the cosmos. So we as humanity have been able to raise our frequency enough to allow these blue light beings to come down to us to help us further. So it's this constant feedback loop of evolution. But what you're talking about this month is is really those three surges that will accelerate the evolution of humanity in a very
Yes,
significant
yes,
way.
yes,
And that's hugely exciting going
yes,
into next year
yeah,
when the energy is so different.
yeah. And I wrote in my blog, it's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and walk around with a crystal ball in your back pocket. You know, that's not what spiritualism is. That's not what consciousness is. And you may not fully realize the fullness, the completeness of this for a couple of years. So I just want to put that out as well. However, some people, highly sensitive people, are experiencing it already. You know, they can feel the surges getting ready to come. So everybody's different in that. But it's exactly as you said. What I say is we're not ascending to the 5D realm, the fifth dimensional realm. We are not ascending to the 12th dimensional realm or the 35th dimensional realm. We are inviting and welcoming through our consciousness those realms to integrate with our third dimensional realm so that we can still live as humans with a less burdened body, a light body, so that we can enjoy each other more and see the changes and manifest the changes that we want to see in the world.
Beautiful. So
So,
it's like an expansion of our consciousness.
right, but it's not going out. They're very clear with me, and definitely people may agree with that, but they just keep showing, no, you're coming more into the body. You're bringing your light into the body.
It's really, really interesting. I think it's important to say as well, and I've mentioned this in videos in the past, that where we have we've got two major ingredients apart from the blue light. We've got the exponential increase in solar flares. We've got these huge surges of photonic light because the Earth is moving through the photon belt. Those are two main ingredients for our evolution right now, plus the blue light. But whenever you get very high frequency light coming in, where there has been a lot of low frequency energy, you often get more chaos created as more of the low frequency structures break down. So we may, as a result of this, actually see, temporarily at least, more chaos in the world until there's a kind of integration of more high frequency light. Am I being clear there? Am I making sense?
No, you are being clear. I do know it's a big concept to wrap your mind around, but I've noticed something quite similar, Pam, in just since that first surge in 2019, that there has been an increase in that chaotic energy. And the example I will give is in my own neighborhood, considered one of the safest and neighborhoods, and actually my whole town. We call it a gritty city, but in the last year, gun violence has really escalated, and I will hear gunshots, 2, 3, 4 times a week within blocks of my house. And we've kind of normalized that, and we shouldn't have to normalize it. But what I feel, if I can put it this way, as a clairvoyant working with the health of the human energy field, if those who are expressing the violence are shedding that off their cells so that their internal divinity or the internal light, can come up, or that desire to see the humanity in each other is coming to the surface, as it's shedding, that may be being reflected in our community. So for me, I do look at it as a good sign. We're making movement. I feel like it's not going to get worse. I feel like it's going to get better. I feel like it's just another sign that we are growing and expanding. And even those expressing that, and I know I'm not spiritually bypassing, I'm not doing any of this, but I get what you're saying, Pam. It can be hard to wrap your mind around what that might look like. And I just want to add, none of us have been through this before. I mean, that's what you're so great about expressing. It's like these planets haven't been like this before. So we're all doing the best we can with the darkness that's around us. And I always say it's great to look up in the river of life and see everyone that's there and connect, with people that are uplifting and supportive, but also participate in helping to make the darker aspects of our world a better place.
Absolutely. And inevitably, where we have a lot more light, it's going to show up more darkness. It's like shining a very bright light into the corner of a dark room, and you suddenly see all little beetles and cockroaches,
Exactly.
webs that you hadn't seen before. So inevitably, that's going to show up the darkness. But that is meant to happen in order for us to shed those lower frequencies and move on to something higher. So it's all part of the process, even though what's happening at the moment is is very, very hard for us with compassionate hearts to witness. It's extremely distressing, but we must just keep on expanding the love frequency, because energetically that's one of the most helpful things we can do to help that situation.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to say one other thing is that light of your own soul is also illuminating some of the dark places within you and within each person. And I just want to say, being critical or judgmental or hating certain aspects of yourself shuts that light back off again.
Yeah.
And so just say, oh, thank you for illuminating these aspects of myself that I'm not very proud of. And then you're always so great about that love, just coming from that place of love. And we have to do that. We can't judge our judgment. We just can't, because it's going to slow things down. So.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, Nancy. So we're just starting November. We're just in the second now. So it's very exciting about what's coming up. So Nancy's 2 meditations, blue light meditations, are free. I'm putting those under the video. And is there, apart from the things you've said, Nancy, being in nature, grounding, bare feet on the ground, connecting in with our meditations as often as possible, is there anything else you'd recommend? Are there any crystals, blue crystals, anything like that you would recommend? Anything else you could say to people? Because astrologically, November is a really intense month, probably the most intense month of the year, in fact. So anything else you can let us know that would be helpful?
Well, so thank you for mentioning that and mentioning crystals. So what I like for everyone out there to know, because I am a psychic intuitive teacher, is trust your instinct. So go inside, meditate with the blue light, if that's helpful for you, and say, what is it do I personally need now? And it might be go to the park every day and sit by your favorite tree. I can't do crystals, so I will just say that, because for some reason it's too intense for my energy field. So, however, stones, I'm a crazy person about stones, and I like to collect stones from mountains, or I like to connect with mountains. Some people, flowers are going to help, but I have been telling everybody, get blue hats, get blue blue necklaces. Definitely lapis is the quality, the frequency. I love it. I love it. And I don't consider lapis a crystal. And so it's deep in the earth, and it's definitely has a lot of stone qualities in it. However, it's like, if you put it on and it feels good, absolutely do that. But don't feel like something's wrong with you if you can't do that. Your sensitivities are going to need a different recipe. So do all the things, meditating, but then definitely following your instincts about what you need next. And that might be a certain food as well, a certain herb or fresh fruit, So yeah, that I think the biggest thing, because I work with so many people on the health of their energy field, is that it doesn't take much for people to feel less than. It's like, I'm not very spiritual, I don't know how to do that. It's like, we're all spiritual because we're spirit, and trust your instincts. If it's supposed to help you take in more light to stream a Netflix show on baking, then do that. Whatever's going to help you to remain in an expanded, non-contracted state.
Yeah, and be aware of that. Something I've recommended in the past to people, that they stick Post-it notes all over the house.
Yeah.
What's my frequency? What's my state of being? So check in consciously, because that's the only way we're really going to shift it, is being aware of it. Because otherwise,
I have one that everybody can do.
Okay.
They just tap me and they're like, wait a minute. Water. I don't think we have any concept of how intelligent water is. Water is, we're going to say, it's a being. It's a consciousness, but it's not just a consciousness. It's like a living, breathing being. And it's like the water says, your wish, whatever you desire, I'm going to fulfill. So say, I'd like this ease. I'd like to integrate easily. You hold that glass of water, you talk to the water, and then, it's going to shift to provide whatever it is that you need in that higher state of consciousness. And then you drink the water. So that everybody.
Beautiful. Aveda Austin would love you for that. I know she would. I saw her in Glastonbury recently, but she sees water now as God consciousness, divine consciousness.
Beautiful.
Which is, very much echoing what you're saying, because we are constantly ingesting, it's flowing through us, this God consciousness, this divine consciousness. So it's up to us to have that awareness of interacting with it and making it as beautiful and high frequency as we possibly can.
And baths and swimming and going to the sea, going to the ocean and sitting in the spray of the salt water and talking to it. Yeah.
Beautiful. This has just been absolutely joyful, Nancy. I've loved every minute of it. And is there anything else you'd like to share with people before we close?
Let me just look. No, we've really covered things. So it's, when I think about in terms of frequency, and not just the blue light beings, but all spiritual beings, like if you are praying to Mother Mary or to Jesus, or to the angels, it's like they have a unique frequency to them. And if I'm talking to you and you're talking to me, our frequencies are really engaging with each other. But we can have other frequencies that kind of jam our frequency, And so they're always asking me to I do a monthly frequency forecast, and then I do the yearly frequency forecast. And they just talk about things in terms of frequency. It's not blame. It's like, what frequency are we putting out in the world? And you're really good about talking about that frequency of love. And I also know people have been hurt and harmed by people that were supposed to love them. So I always say, you don't have to feel love or loving for anybody. Just intend that the frequency of love will radiate through, because this blue light is opening our hearts in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. And so anyway,
that is just so beautiful, Nancy, and a beautiful note to end on, and for us as humanity to feel really optimistic and excited about. And I think the more we can feel,
hope so.
Excited about this evolution. Yes, it's going to be intense, because as you said, and I've said too, there's no dress rehearsal for this. We're in it. We're sort of just we're whitewater rafting, riding the waves as we go. But it is a very unique evolutionary opportunity, which the blue light beings are helping to accelerate, particularly this month of November, when things in the astrology look particularly intense, kind of on the ground. And so it's so much needed. And so, you know, just bless you for all of the
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
work you're doing in the world, all the people you're helping, and I hope you reach more people with this, because it's so special and you have such a big heart. So
Thank you so much.
thank you for this conversation. I hope everybody out there has enjoyed this as much as I have, and I think Nancy has too. So God bless, and just keep on doing everything that you're doing, Nancy.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye for now.